Step right up and join the most vibrant circus community in the world, circustalk.com. This is In Center Ring. I'm your host, Jonathan Lee Iverson. Renowned the world over as the Abyssinian Contortionist, this celebrated circus star, groomed in the very heart of her beloved Ethiopia, has soared from mere dreamer to game-changing trailblazer. In Center Ring presents Sosina Wogayehu.
Happy New Year. That's right. Ethiopian New Year. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, you get 7 years younger, 2013.
Absolutely. That's why everybody's so beautiful over there. Like, wow.
It's like a instant facelift. You come to Ethiopia, 7 years younger.
That's brilliant. That's
And do you know about time? Do you know about Ethiopian time?
No.
Okay, this is very interesting. So we don't start the day from midnight. We don't understand why the world starts the day from midnight. We start the day from when the sun is rising in the morning. So when you say 7 o'clock in the morning, we say 1 o'clock in the morning. It's 1. So the day starts with 1 and it finishes with 12. The night starts with 1 and it finishes with 12. So the midnight thing, it doesn't work for us. I know I got confused you, but
No, you know what? I think I can actually live with Ethiopian time. I've never liked the whole midnight thing myself. And I like getting up with the sun. I don't like getting up and get up at 4 in the morning and there's no sun and you're trying to do something. I don't need that in my life anymore. I want Ethiopian time. And that's what we're going to do.
every month has 30 days, not 28 days or 29 days. It's all 30 days. And then the last month, we call it Pagami. And that has like 5 days. And in the leap year, you have 6 days. So we have 13 months. We call it 30 months of sunshine.
Look at this. This is a whole education. Like, that's a whole different world.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of interesting stuff.
We should come back and have like a quiz show.
Africa is calling everybody.
Yes.
Not even Africa. Africa is calling everybody. So when you come back here, there is something that you find that you don't find anywhere else in the world. Anywhere else in the world. That then, that sheer energy and pure talent, extraordinary talent, with so much color in it, and so much joy. So that is like, it feeds my soul. You work twice by being here because you will see the gap. The gap. And you really want, for me, like I really want to cover that gap before my time ends, before I leave this world.
It's so important that you hold a pen when telling your own story. What were fed about Ethiopia, and I remember growing up as a child, all we ever heard of Ethiopia were the starving children and send 6 cents a day and blah, 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 blah. And narrative is so important. It's so important because it just sets how you value people, how you see them. I'm very careful lately, even in how we talk about the grand history of the circus, which is what we're about, and so many people, they stop in Europe, like, in the beginning, it was Europe, and I'm like, you have all these ancient cultures that came way before Europe. And you think they weren't doing acrobatics? They weren't, exploring their bodies, and they weren't coming up with all of these daring things to do? Of course they were.
We have the history of acrobatics from the people of Gamo and Walaita, where they do acrobatics for the people they love and care. They do it in funerals, they do it in weddings. They have this incredible culture. We have this rich culture. That's what we need to talk about, because even you would see like the American, like the Beyonce moves and every moves that I've seen that is related to Africa. No, to be honest, like you would see in the southern part of Ethiopia, there is a tribes, and it's called, the dance is called Avagandi, and they do it around the fire, a bonfire. All those moves that I see them in the big screens, that glorious with costumes and stuff, but it's there. And I think it's up to us to go and dig into these cultures, and also documentation, the most important things that we need to do to document everything, our physical cultures, our culture in general, our music culture, our food culture. You know, there are people who is drinking coffee every single day. How many people know that coffee actually came from Ethiopia? And actually the place is called Kaffa. Even the name coffee came from Kaffa. So there is a lot of things. Ethiopia is not colonized by any Western culture. The only African country that is not colonized by any Western culture. Most of, if you see Ethiopian histories, when it's the oldest nation, the first human being, Polik, is found in Ethiopia. So the whole world is come from Ethiopia. We have over 80 languages spoken in Ethiopia, and we have so much culture, so much movement.
And I only speak one. I got a lot of work to do if I get over there. I hope I'm correct, but I was looking around. You're sort of a movie star too.
Well, I do bits and pieces. I cannot call myself.
No, I saw film. I said, wow, wait a minute. I had to go and clean this up. I said, I'm going to be talking to a movie star. This is wonderful. I just thought, wow. You're not just traveling around doing circus. You're a big deal. You're a big deal.
I watched this wall and advertisement at Circus Halls, and I talked to my friend Annie. I'm like, wait, it's like 1930s movie, like, well, who's gonna take me? Really? Do you think they're gonna get in? I mean, like, with my skin color and such. She said, oh my God, Sosie, all the Black American came that time, all the jazz musicians, all blah, 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 blah. And she said to me, you should do it. And I'm like, okay. So I went into this tiny room to do audition, and you can't do hardly anything. Anyway, I went to the camera, I checked myself through my audition, did my makeup, and I walked back, and I've done a couple of tricks, and I closed my eyes, and I hope I see you soon. And I walked out, and 6 months later, they said, well, you're in. And I'm like, what? Why you pick me up? I said, well, you are so remind us of Josephine Baker. And that is the sense of what we got. And I'm like, Josephine Baker, wow. I have to do a lot of reading. So I ordered some books and I started reading. And I fell in love with her, basically.
Oh, yeah.
I literally fell in love with her. So I even did an act in 2006, which came to a New Victory Theater in New York. So much about Josephine Baker that I thought, oh my God, this woman was ahead of her time. This is such an inspiration for me. So anyhow, I did that one, and then I did Falling from Sahara. And the last audition was very interesting. The movie is called Partisan. And so I just gave birth to my son. And I was in the hospital, checking my email, and then from NICA, from the National Institute of Circus Art, where I graduated from, this email popped in, and I'm like, what is that? And then I look, and it said, oh, it's an audition call, and I'm like, wow, a movie, that's interesting. Maybe I should do it. I just gave birth. So 10 days later, I went to this audition with the baby on my shoulder. So I did my first audition and I left. And they called me 2 months later, which is my baby was 2 months as well. So they put us in improvisation, like three girls together, they did this improvisation thing. And all of the women there were like, they studied, Vincent Castle is, the leading actor. So they talk about him, they talk about that. And I was busy breastfeeding. So I was like, I'm here. I listen to them, I breastfeed, I walk in, and I did my improvisation and I left. 4 months later, they invite me back. And I'm like, well, we're going to do script audition, but we're going to give you a role. And I'm like, why you pick me up on that audition? I'm like, and say, well, you were very relaxed. And because my head was very open that time, because I wasn't stressed about who Vincent Castle was, or I didn't care. I was just walking and just did my task and then I left. So anyhow, they gave me the role, and a week later, they also give a role for my son, who was 4 months old. I didn't know that there was a 4 months old baby in the script, but there was 4 months old baby on the script. So he had an opportunity as well to pay tax for the Australian government on the 4 months old.
Wow, he's a star already. I have such a fascination with contortion, I mean, at the same time that I'm going, wow, what a talent, I'm going, ouch. What a beautiful thing. So you started out as a contortionist, and when did you begin your foray into circus? Do you come from a circus family, or is it just something you were just drawn to?
I basically started contortion from watching variety show on TV. So we had one channel in Ethiopia. We used to watch this variety show every Friday that transmitted from Europe. So I see these people wearing these glittery costumes, doing bits and pieces, and like they do balancing, they do contortion and stuff. And I start pushing away the couches. I make a little stage for myself, and I start copying every Friday. So because I was 6 years old, I get really supple straight away, and I bend things. I say, I make cat or dog or a shape of 9 or 6, But I do shows. I do shows for my parents. I do shows on my street and my community. I do walkovers, and it just came naturally to me. And then I also watch on TV. There is a gymnastic federation who teach kids gymnastics. So I joined when I was 7 years old, and start practicing gymnastics in the gymnastic club. I became a gymnastic champion when I was 9 and 11. And then Circus Ethiopia formed in 1991. And then they were looking for very talented kids from the city. And I was there already, I had a skill. So I joined the circus, and when I joined Gymnastic Federation, I thought I was the only one who's doing it. And then I went there, I found kids who do similar things. So I was very excited to be there. Then when we went to the circus, and I'm like, wow, there's even more kids to find, other kids that who are naturally talented. So when in early days of Circus Ethiopia, it's actually formed in the Jewish compound. So when I say Jewish compound, there was a mission, it's called Mission Salomon, where they take Jewish Ethiopians to Israel. So the Jewish Ethiopia, we call them also Falasha, they in that compound, they learn about the religion, they learn about Jewish customs, education. So there are a lot of kids there. So it was a natural place to start the circus. And then the kids from the city, like me, join the other kids, the Ethiopian Jewish kids, and become Circus Ethiopia. And later on, we moved to another compound that's called Circus Ethiopia. So Circus Ethiopia formed in 1991 in Addis Ababa. And then Circus Jimma formed, and then another region, Circus Mekale, Circus Tigray formed, then Circus Nazareth, and then Circus Dredoa. Those 5 circuses become circus in Ethiopia, so they become an umbrella organization. In early days of Circus Ethiopia, we do local shows on the street. We just put our sound system and we make shows. And those shows, we teach about HIV or clean water or, we educate people. In 1995, it was a big shift for Circus Ethiopia. That was the first international tour that we made, and that was in Holland to perform for the Queen of Holland. So in that case, KLM sponsored 25 kids to go to Holland to perform for the Queen for UNICEF Gala. And I was part of that, and it was like, first time to be on the plane was like, wow, and then the first time to be in Europe, it was summer, the day was very long. And don't forget that Ethiopia is in the equator. So we have the day and the night is quite equal. So we went there, summer, 10 o'clock, the sun is still up. It's like we don't sleep. I mean, it's night, you should sleep. It's like, no, there is a sun, so we don't sleep. So we had a great success, and then the TV station invited us back in a month's time, 12 young people, and I was one of them. And then the European promoters got interested, and they started inviting us to Europe and other places to perform in different festivals. So there was a lot of movements, after those five umbrella organization. There is in Hargeisa, there is in Desi, there is so much more circuses that formed in bit by bit. So that is the background of circus. But then before that, there was a variety shows, like we called them Ababa Tasfai, which was an old guy, there was no old at that time when they performed for the Queen, for the King of Ethiopia, King Haile Selassie. But we called them Ababa Tasfai because he was a storyteller for Ethiopian kids, and he used to do a little magic show. And there is also a guy named Belai who used to do unicycle acts. So it's not like as a company, it's formed in 1991, but there was like small acts here and there before that. And then, thousands of years before, then there is a culture of acrobatics in Ethiopia. So that was the beginning of Circus Ethiopia.
I always tell people it's a myth that you run away and join the circus. I think the circus just calls to you. I mean, here you are, this little girl in Ethiopia, you have this one channel and you're watching this variety show and you're moving furniture around going, that's what I'm doing. And your parents have no problem with this whatsoever.
No, I mean, actually this, it's a funny you say that, because my mom's friends thinks because I'm oversplit, I'm very flexible and stuff. And, one day they actually warn her that I lose my virginity because I'm doing all this crazy stuff. And my mom says, it's just a story, but my mom says, let it be. This is what I want, this is not something that we talk about.
How did it go there? She's just looking at
Anyway, because it's such a new thing, it's such an odd thing that little girl comes and bend and fold and things, and it's crazy.
Right.
So it is quite interesting. Ethiopian culture is quite interesting. Anyhow, so that foundation I have to have a freedom from my parents to be allowed to do what I want that's the biggest gift that I ever had.
Mm.
And then when I was doing gymnastics and start circus later on, from the age of 11 to 13, I used to sell cigarettes and chewing gums and stuff on the street because I was a kind of a street vendor, and I make money out of that to be able to. So I don't ask my parents for any money; I just do it myself. Wow. So once I start living in the West, like after traveling with Circus Ethiopia for many years, once I moved to Australia, I think that skills that I have on the street of Addis gave me so much benefit later on in my life, because I was basking on the street of Auckland Street in Melbourne when I was studying, and it was like natural to me. And wherever you go, I think when you learn to deal with the people who came from any walk of life, from anywhere, to negotiate, to deal, to sell, to perform. I think that's a skill, but that skill came from the street of Addis. You become street smart, you know.
How interesting.
So anything that I think that is given as a child, it would play a major role in your later on, you know, in your life. And you realize that when you connect, people say, you're not fearful like you do. I used to braid hair on Ackland Street. That's my basking style. So I braid hair, they pay me, and I go to school. So that is like a weekend job. So I don't have to work for anybody. I work for myself. If I'm tired, I don't have to. But it keeps me going when I finish university, you know, like I did my performing art degree, and then I graduated from NICA as well. So it's such a gift for me to be able to live my life the way I wanted. And because my parents allow me to be free in African country, young girl, that age, being free is unthinkable.
I love that you tell that, because especially in regards to women, you know, because we're told, you know, the women are so, they're so beaten down by the men, they can't do anything. And here you are telling me that your parents gave you this freedom to really discover yourself and explore yourself. And that's a big deal. I mean, that's something I see a lot over here where a lot of people do not. They're not, it's like, you know, they just don't have that space to, for whatever reason. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's family traditions. I don't know. But I think it's so inspiring, at least from where I'm looking, that here you are, you just instinctively went for this thing that was stirring up in you. And then you instinctively said, you know what? So I don't have to be a burden on my parents. I'll figure out how to make this happen. And you've been doing that your whole life, where, you know, you have this real liberty, you know. And I tell you, I mean, I'm a little envious because, you know, it's over here in the States, at least. I mean, you always have to kind of compromise some way, you know, to make those artistic dreams happen, you know.
Yeah, and I guess, like, you know, like in Ethiopia, I think my parents were very, very exceptional, very exceptional. I mean, you know, like when we talk about women, you know, all over the world, in the leadership especially, is very difficult, still is in Ethiopia. But I am bold. I learned to be bold. My parents allow me to be bold because that's who I am. They're not asking me to live their dream. They allow me to live my own dream, to find my own dream. So I guess, like, that ability to be bold and fearless and, you know, speaking from your heart, you know, speaking from your heart. If you feel a pain, you have to release it. And that has to be heard. So for me, that is very important to have even healthy lifestyle, to be happy. So whatever decision I made, it's crazy decision I made in my life. Most, you know, like big decision always. Like when I moved to Australia, when I'm there, I don't have no parents whatsoever. I have a broken English, and here I am in a foreign country. And if I tell you how I get to university as well, that's a really good story. It's quite a good story. Let me share you, because I think it will inspire many people.
Please do.
So what happened was, I was basking on the street of Ackland Street. I have a very long braid, and this photographer came. Her name is Suzanne, and she said to me, "Oh, can I take your pictures? You know, I really would love to take a photo. I'm a photography student, and we can help each other. I give you photos, and I think you're going to be a good subject." Before even she knew that I do contortion or anything. So I said, "Okay, good." So I wanted to do it on the beach, and I'm like, "Okay, great." And we start taking photos, and I said, "Oh, you know, I can do position, you know, I can do contortions," and I start doing it. She was like, "Oh my God, And then she took these photos, and that time I was supported by Red Cross because Australian government did not accept me yet. So she said, I told her all my story, and she said to me, well, Sosina, what do you want to be? And I said, I want to be, there is no circus school, so I just want to be in performing arts school. I want to learn about light, sound, stage management. I want to learn about all the other aspects of performance. So she was looking which course is good for her, blah, blah, blah. And she found this course at Swinburne University, and she brought me a flyer. So I rang in that number and I asked if I can be part of that course. And in the other end, his name is John Butler. He said to me, oh, you're late. We already did the audition and you have to wait another year. And I'm like, and then after I hang up, I'm like, you know what? Actually, I'm going to go. So I went to Swinburne University. I looked for John Butler. And then his secretary said to me, oh, do you have an appointment? And I said, no, but I only take 5 minutes. And she allowed me. And then finally I met him. And I said, hey, my name is Sosina. Like, did I talk to you this morning? I said, yes, you did, but I don't think you understand me. So I really want to explain to you face to face. And then, okay, go ahead. I told you that you're late. I'm like, yeah, but I'm a performer. I travel the world. I'm a circus performer. I'm a physical artist. All I want to know is about light, sound, stage management, production management, makeup, photography. All those things that makes me look beautiful and make me look amazing. I want to know what they do. So he was very captured. Like, well, I said, well, are you a permanent residency of Australia? I said, no. Well, we have to treat you as international student, and then you have to pay $10,000. And I'm like, a year? I'm like, okay, just give me the spot, and then I'll figure out. And then he said, well, okay, we're going to audition you. I will speak to my team, and they will audition you. I said, okay. And then I was invited for audition, and they accept me. So then I had to find the money. So I went to Red Cross, and this lady who used to support me, her name is Lucy, and I poured my eyes out. I said to her, I want to go to school. I don't want to be on the street. You don't want another person in the street. I want to go to school, and you have to help me. So she said, okay, give me a couple of days. She was bringing everybody to sponsor me, and she found the Rotary Club. And she came up, I found the sponsor. And I'm like, oh my God, you're kidding me? Yes. And so I had my exercise book and bag and stuff given, she gave me from the Red Cross. She gave me all my school stuff. So I went to school. So, and then in my first year was quite interesting because I have all these Australian young people with me. I learned sharing, in Ethiopia, you share in the same plate, whatever you bring. So that culture even is, it was so hard, all the students say, but it's your food, you should. I'm like, I know, but, I like to share. So it's like a cultural learning experience. And in the second year, and after that, I got sponsorship from the university. And then NICA, just when I was studying that course across the road, this building is this building is going to happen, and somebody told me. But for that, there is a pilot program, which is 20 weeks program, a circus program. So there is a theater in the university, it's called David William Theater. And I walk past and I see all these guys that I do gymnastics with lined up. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? They say, there is a new circus school about to open, and there is a 20 weeks pilot program. And I'm like, are you serious? I want to be in this audition. And then they say to me, well, we've been enrolled like 2 months ago. I'm like, okay. And then I lined up at the end of the line for the audition. And then at the end, I walk in and I said, what's your name? I'm like, Sosina Wogayehu. And then they start looking in their list, and I said, I'm not in your list. But I was outside. I heard there is a new circus school. I love circus. I've been a circus performer. And then I see 3 clubs and bits and pieces that they audition with. And I say to them, I can do all of it. And they went, okay, we'll give you a chance. And then I've done everything. So after that, they accept me for that 20 weeks project. So I did that 20 weeks project, and then the NICA building happened. When I finished this course, when I entered to NICA, Cirque du Soleil sponsored my whole course to study at NICA. And so I graduated from there, my second degree. So it's quite an amazing. For me, it's like, that's why you should try. If you're not back, that's fine. But if you try.
That is amazing. I think we get stuck on the idea of how it's going to happen rather than just taking the step to just, look, I want this to happen. And, you didn't know where the money was going to come from, but you knew this is where you felt led to be. And everything fell into place and it worked out even more so than you could have possibly imagined. That's a wonderful story, and it is inspiring. And I hope those who are listening, if you have that dream you've been kind of avoiding because you don't think you have enough this or that or resources or whatever, I think it is about stepping out on faith, stepping out on the fact that, you know what, you have this desire and this is the right thing for you to be doing, and just go on it. And you know what, I believe, it's similar to what happened to me in college, because I had no money to go to college and none. I just knew I wanted to go and study voice, and I was going to do that. And it's amazing when you just make a decision about what you wish your destiny to be. It's amazing how everything opens up. Our only assignment is to want it, and want it bad enough.
And also learning to invest on people, investing in people. I hold the people that I trust and they support me close to my heart. So that also helps. I call my circus tribes.
Yes. I find that with a lot of folks in circus. A lot of us, I think, to be fair, I think a lot of us in the circus world, we've discovered that, the importance of relationships, because circus, its nature really is, it's interdependent. We don't have to like each other, but, I always say, when you're 30 feet in the air on a trapeze rig, you don't really care about what your catcher was doing last night. You just want them to catch you. You don't care where they're from. You just catch me. And I think that really surmises a lot of what our relationships are in the circus world. If there is a society that is the ideal society, I think it is the circus, warts and all. I mean, it's imperfect too, but I think we have a real advantage of understanding how very important it is for people to recognize their peculiar gifts, and the responsibility of those gifts, not only to their audience, but to each other. I'm curious to know about your performing experience, not just from being on stage, of course. You've had this wonderful career and you've traveled the world, but, being an Ethiopian artist, being an Ethiopian woman out there in the world, I'm really interested to know how you were perceived and how you were welcomed, or what people may have thought of you, or what misconceptions did they have of you, and how did you counter those?
Wow. I think I'm a very hard person to offend to. I've got a thick skin. But if I'm offended, that must be really, really offensive. Really offensive. So I guess when you're performing, what I love about, for example, about circus shows is you have 100% artistic input. So it's not like, they put you like a socket, like they really Like, for example, I would love to do Josephine Baer characters. So I have to sell for the director my idea. If he buys it, then it's going to happen. Then I work on it, So, like, for example, I did a Houdini act, like in a small box, but I'm fitting in the contortion position where the water pumped up, filled up. This is like a tiny, I will send you a picture, tiny box. And before that act, I was doing a contortion act with a popcorn machine, like popcorn box. I used to do that act. And so I was inspired just standing next to the popcorn machine, and I'm like, I wonder if I can fit in there. And then it was very circusy, and it was like I saw the idea for the directors. Look, what about if it this and that, and if I start with this, and then they bought it, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm bored with this act. I think I should turn it to Houdini. I think it would be excellent. It's freaky, but it will happen. And then it happens, and it's kind of original act in it. So they really, if you have ideas, and it's very flexible, you have the artistic freedom,
right?
But also, on the stage, it's very supportive team, and I loved it. But then when you go out to meet the audience, then people already read the program. So that's when it gets interesting sometimes.
I want to hear about this interest.
So you get a whole lot of people, but people say to you, "Wow, I didn't know that you were from Ethiopia. I thought you were Spanish or something." But then I read that you're from Ethiopia. I'm like, "Yes." So where did you learn these skills? In Ethiopia. Most of it I've learned there. It's like, really? There is a school there. You learn there. Wow. I have people that I told that I have pet tigers and elephants even. Like, it's okay. So you have these people who turns up and they come with different things. For example, I was sitting with this woman traveling to another place with Circus Ethiopia, and she was sitting next to me. I had to stop with her for the 2 hours flight. And she said to me, "Oh, hi." I said, "Hello. And what's your name?" "Oh, my name is Sosina. Where are you from?" I'm like, "I'm originally from Ethiopia." And she said, "Wow, you're well fed for Ethiopian, kid." She kind of felt me on my shoulder. I'm like, "Oh, really?" And then she said to me, "You speak very well English." And I'm like, "Yes, I am educated here. I studied in Australia, I have 2 degrees." And she said, "Wow, that is amazing. Your immigrants are the one that was doing, well. I have these 2 kids who are bludgers. They don't do well. So I just finished my biology to teach them, to inspire them." I'm like, "Great." And then, we start talking, and, she started talking about 1984, and I tried to explain that, and we moved on from there, and blah, blah, blah. And then she heard something, and then she came back and said, "Did you hear?" And I'm like, "What?" "There is a Circus mob in this plane. There is a Circus group in this plane." And I'm like, "Oh, yes, you're sitting next to one." And she said, "What do you mean?" "Well, I work for Circus." She said, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah." "What do you do?" "Well, I'm a performer as well as I'm a board of directors." So she was like, "Wow, you must be very lucky." And I said, "Well, I'm not lucky. I worked for it. I earned it."
But, I was blown away by just seeing, the work that's being done on this wonderful facility that is going to be opening up soon. You have to share this with us, because this is, I had to watch you. You sent the video, you let me watch it, and I must have watched it 3 or 4 times, because it was like, it's so gorgeous and glorious. And I know it's going to do tremendous things for circus in Ethiopia, but just circus, I think, globally. I see it as an epicenter, and I love it mostly, to be selfish, I'll say it. Anything that, is made with African hands for the people there to share with the world has got to be a great thing, because now it's like, this is our story, this is who we are, this is the best of who we are, and we're sharing it with you, and you're welcome to it. I think it's glorious. Please tell us about it.
This is a time, Africa is rising, and this would be a right time to bring this one up. So I have this huge project called Ethiopian Circus Center. From that, there is a pilot program, almost a model, that we call it Imagine Ntoto. Imagine Ntoto is up the hill of Addis Ababa, where it's really green and natural. We want the Ethiopian government to give us a land, so we built 300-seater circus space with 2 studios. So that is a place, it's a public space, that's a place where kids can be introduced to the circus, and they will have a real experience of circus in that small area. But then once we show that for the government, that we're going to go to this huge, almost you can call it village, that it has 1,200-seater performing space. We have a school there, proper school, and then in the middle we have a training space that's going to be home for the National Circus School. And then we have avenues like a library with African Research Center. We need a research center where we can actually build these stories and tribal cultures and physical culture. We need to have that in a written document. I mean, it's also our job to show the world that this is who we are. So I feel very strongly that we need to develop that area as well. And obviously there is a public gym and other avenues to make money for the circus school. So it's a social enterprise. So the National Circus School, even if we ask the world to fund us to build this thing, but at the end of the day, we want to stand by ourselves to feed itself. The first step is going to be released soon is the Imagine Ntoto project. That's 300-seater, like a speaker wall type, but with a proper size ring, because we want to build a bigger act. That will give a lot more than 50 artists job, and that's only artists. Then we will give opportunities to be a production manager, stage manager, all the other aspects of performance. So it will give over 100 people a job opportunity. But also what the world doesn't know is all these amazing artists been performing all over the world, but they've never been seen in a circus ring by their parents. I've never been seen by my parents. My parents are already passed.
Oh.
I want to give that opportunity for Ethiopian kids to perform for their own communities, for their own people, to inspire other people. So they don't have to watch a variety show from Europe, but they can see their own people succeeding. The world doesn't know is Ethiopia is about, 110, it's a very big nation, 115 million people. From that, 70% of the population is under 30. And over 48% is under 15 years of age. It's very young. We have to utilize the energy of these young people by inspire them, by educating them. The Ethiopian Circus Center will give them, at least before they come out from Ethiopia, they will learn 2 languages, 3 languages before they leave. It will be a place even for African artists, like Ethiopian Airlines, for African artists to come and educate themselves there. So it's very important for the whole Africa to have an institution like that. We go to the circus festivals and different festivals, and we see other big countries like Russia, Ukraine, China, the circus culture and what they do with it. And now it's time that we show for our government that it's an avenue. It's an avenue for business. It's an avenue for employment. It's also an avenue, we export talent. I mean, the biggest export for Ethiopia is coffee. I would say we export talent, and we are next to athletics. We are very good in athletics. If you are the best in athletics in Ethiopia, you're the best in the world. That's what we want to be with the circus too.
I'm a cheerleader over here, and I want to see it supported, and I need to see it because I have a vested interest in it, because I think, the arts has a fantastic way of turning a narrative over on its head. And this is giving Ethiopia this golden opportunity to really tell the brilliant, beautiful, glorious, ancient story of Ethiopia and Africa as a whole to the world from its own mouths, from its own pens, and from its own artist.
I grew up when I grew up in Ethiopia when that 1984 song came out,
Yes.
the world. That stuck with me until now. Like the Africa forgot about it, but the whole world doesn't. So every time I come out on the big stage and perform, when I come out, people would say to me if my parents are fed or if I'm fed, or like if that image, the world came together to support that cause. It was devastating, but time has changed. There are many people that are still there. So now we have to shift things to empower. We are standing, and young people are getting jobs, but we want to make it, because we have a young nation, we want to make it really big. So there are like this thing that come out of Africa all the time with different things, different inspirations, different art forms to these world festivals, but also we would like to host our own festival in our space.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So we don't want to always go, but we want people to come to us. Like by them coming to us, I think they will see even more of what Africa offers.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, she is Sosina Wogayehu. I love it.
The Black experience in circuses go back hundreds of years, and we do it with our own style. The circus has been a microcosm of the outside world. Many of the same prejudices that you see in the outside world are present in the circus.
So it's moving past the vision or the limited vision that the society has for you and stepping into the talent and skill that you know you have to go forward as a performer.
The circus is a vast international community, and there's only one place to connect for jobs, events, the latest news, and so much more. CircusTalk.com. Join today.